Gather Geeks is brought to you by Master Planner Online. Choose your event date with confidence. Avoid costly scheduling conflicts with Master Planner. With this continuously updated online calendar of fundraisers, important openings, and major events, you'll know precisely what's happening and where in New York and Los Angeles. Subscribe today at masterplanneronline.com.
Are you a follower?
9, 8,
Okay, so we're gonna call the ad.
Welcome to Gather Geeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Executive Editor Beth Kormanik.
Welcome to Gather Geeks. Buzz about an event doesn't just happen organically. There's almost always a PR firm orchestrating everything behind the scenes. David recently spoke with Susan and Allyn Magrino, founders of powerhouse New York PR agency Magrino, on the occasion of its 25th anniversary. They have represented clients like Martha Stewart, Preston Bailey, and a number of hotel brands, spirits companies, and others. They've also worked on major events such as the hugely entertaining blowout opening of the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, which we covered in BizBash. They talk about some of the secrets of the trade, but also raise points worth considering, such as the changing relationships between PR and the media in the digital age, how you should think about influencers, and more. Their perspective after so many years in business is worth hearing, so let's take a listen.
So I'm here, we're doing Gather Geeks in the offices of Susan Magrino and her sister Allyn Magrino, who have been basically the trailblazers in the PR business in New York City for the last 25 years. I want to start with my first questions. Number one question, how has it changed? What is your sense of the world from 25 years ago and the world now, if you put yourself back?
I might also define it as how it hasn't changed.
Okay, that's a good point.
I think that it still requires tremendous passion, hard work, dedication every single day. And if you don't have that, and if you don't believe in yourself and your clients, and you aren't ready to do that, that's the hallmark of this business. That's the piece that you must have. I think where it's changed is print is very different. We all came up in print. Allyn, you and David actually met at Macmillan book publishing.
Yeah.
I started my career in book publishing. Newspapers, magazines were just amazing, and I do feel that was tremendous training, and we're excited. In our celebration tomorrow night, we're going to be seeing a lot of the people that we really came up with over 25 years, where there were serious stories at times that we spent a lot of time communicating with people. And I felt that we got to know a lot of the journalists a lot better because we were really talking to them every single day. And I think now you're emailing with people. You may hear back, you may not hear back. People move around a little more. I don't think people are staying in positions on both sides, PR and media, as much as they used to. So I think that you've got to always have a really, really good story and be able to communicate that, whether it be digitally, personally, through imagery, through 140 characters or less.
And Allie, what about the event side? I mean, we're here, we talk about events. Gather Geeks is about people that enjoy the idea of bringing people together. Events have played an enormous role now in the public relations game.
Yes, and I think what's really changed there is the rise of social media, because now it used to be we did the event, we wanted certain columnists there, we got some photos, and now it's in real time. So you've got people posting at events, and that's great. I think that's really helped us in so many ways, but in some ways you wonder, does it take away from the enjoyment of the event sometime for people because they're so busy posting what's happening, they're not really experiencing it. So.
But amplification, I've learned that 25% of all marketing now has an event component to it. Mm-hmm. That's really incredible for our business. And it's the amplification. Have you seen bigger budgets because of that? Is it more emphasis on that side of it, or is it
on the social side?
On the event side as sort of the amplifier for social?
Well, I think certainly for our spirits clients, yes, it is a critical way to market spirits. Obviously, when you're having a party, you're serving a gin, you're serving a scotch, you're serving a tequila, you're serving a rum. These are social events where you must have a party. People have to sample it, and all of the elements going into that are pretty critical in terms of communicating what is that brand about and the authenticity of the brand. So we believe we believe that events are really, really important for that. There are other clients that we have where they're also really important in terms of people meeting executives from a company. They need to put a face to the brand. They need to hear them, understand them. You still need to look into somebody's eyes to really communicate. And an event gives you, a wonderful, wonderful ability to do that on a lot of different levels.
So where does events and thought leadership merge? I mean, events are there's a lot of thought leadership involved with events, right? How do you sort of use that as a strategy?
Yeah, I mean, for one example that we did last year, we did a travel summit, the Magrino Travel Summit, and we pulled together some of our top clients and also other people in the travel industry to really get together and talk about what are the trends we're seeing coming out in the next year. And it was great because it positioned Magrino as a thought leader in this space. And we did a white paper, we did a Facebook Live posting, we really put that out there. And that's something we try to do with a lot of our clients and have them go out there and talk about things that aren't necessarily about themselves or their client or product specifically, but about their industry. And I think we were doing that with events too. And I think to back up a little bit, events have gotten so creative over the past 20 years, which is great, but everybody keeps outdoing themselves. So to do an event now, we always say we do parties with a purpose. We don't just have a party for the sake of having a party. It really has to tell your story, and journalists are so jaded now. They get invited to so many things, so you have to really give them something creative to get there and get your message across creatively, because you don't want that killer of 10 minutes of speeches in the middle of a party, but really keep it creative and keep people
When you say
engaged.
creative, what does that really mean? Is that two-way engagement more than, what is the purpose of creativity?
I think part of it is driving social, without a doubt. You want those Instagrammable moments. You want those things that are going to get out there and get the widest number of people there. And I just think people are more receptive to a message if it's presented in a different
purposeful way.
Yeah, and they don't feel like they're being spoken to and you must do this, but more like, oh wow, that was really cool.
Right. I mean, this summit that you did for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, is that now part of the toolkit of
Yes.
things is that the future of more predominant than less in the future now, you think?
Oh, I think so, definitely.
Is it always in your pitches now?
Well, I think going back to what Susan said, I mean, the media landscape has changed so much. It's no longer about doing a press release. That's, it's not that easy. You really have to get out there in different ways and engage journalists in a different way as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days they'd write a story about us on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and the phones would ring off the hook.
Right.
Now,
Try getting that story on the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
And try getting
You haven't
people to read
committed. Exactly. But I think also it's so much fun as a guest at an event as well to look and see what people are doing. Recently, we have a Magrino Mentors series, and we had Darcy Miller come in here recently, who has her new book about entertaining, and present to our staff all of the different ways, and some of them rather economically, that you can really create a memorable event, whether it be a birthday party, personal events, something with a client where you focus in on a couple of key pieces and really, really blow them out and really make them meaningful throughout the course of the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner, the party, whatever it is that you're doing. I think it's wonderful to see what you can do with photography. It's wonderful to see what you can do with recreating moments in people's lives or careers. And, again, with photography, whether they be vintage photographs, new photographs, we have a great advantage of working with a company called Momentum, who is in this business 100%. And they recreate periods of time flawlessly, where you feel like you really did walk into a party in...
They're decor... Who are these?
Momentum is a experiential agency that we work with very closely on the WGS again, where they really, they just created the Hendrix brand Garnisher, which was a giant car that sliced cucumbers, which is the essential element to Hendrix gin. So It was the essential ingredient in Hendrix gin. So I think that they have the ability to really get into a space and time and thinking about what was it really like then. And every time you go, they've just had Tales of the Cocktail down in New Orleans, which I didn't get to experience this year, but looking at how brands come to life for business purposes is something that I think is really, really very interesting.
Making them memorable. What are some of the things that you've done that you could say have done this, have been the expression of the idea of making those moments really, really special to make them memorable?
Well, I think the thing that's important, we've been involved with a lot of events over the course of our career, some of which have been executed by other people, so I would never want to take the credit away from anybody, a David Mon or a Preston Bailey or a
All of the
Bronson
people.
or,
Yeah.
all these wonderful people. I think, we try to work very closely with our clients in making sure that the events are meaningful. We did the opening and launch of the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas several years ago, and their construction schedule and opening date dictated a New Year's Eve opening, which made everybody a little bit nervous to do a New Year's Eve as a grand opening party anywhere, let alone in Las Vegas. Fortunately, our client understood what that was going to mean in terms of not only fulfilling your business objectives and telling the world that you were open that night, but also having a lot of people who were going to be going out for New Year's Eve. So you had a sheer number issue that you had to deal with. We worked very closely. We brought Colin Cowie in for that, who recreated lots of elements of what the Cosmopolitan was meant to be as a brand, because it was a brand new brand. And they also went very big on entertainment in hiring Jay-Z and Coldplay.
You remember those. Those are things that
yeah.
are lifetime memories.
Go big or go home. That was how you had to do that.
Okay. Is that part of your thinking in terms of some clients? Or do you,
Some clients, but then we've done really effective events for 10 people for a champagne brand sometimes. And it's about getting the right 10 people in the room. And also going back to what Susan was saying in the beginning, at the end of the day, it's about your relationships.
Right.
And so no matter, what else you can do or your skills, if you don't have these relationships with these right people, that's really going to affect you.
So
I think-
cutting through all the stuff,
yeah.
the relationships, all of the gugas help create deeper relationships, no matter what you do.
You
Is that
can
your role?
have beautiful events. I mean, we went to something about a month ago from a non-U.S. company that's just arriving in New York, and it was a beautiful party, and it looked like they had all of the right things there. From it was pretty, it was crowded, it spoke to what the brand was, but there was nobody there that
Right.
moved the needle. And I think that's something that you've really got to think about, particularly for companies that are coming into any market. You must, particularly the big ones like New York or like in LA, where if you really want to build a business and get a really good following, you've got to do a few things that are all about that market, no matter what. When we've done things down in Miami, of course you're going to have a mojito or a Cuban rum. If you're going to do something in Boston, you might do something, baked beans, or, you're going to do something, Irish sourdough bread. You're going to take something of what a place is historically about to make it unique. And I always thought, gosh, that was too bad about that, because it looked great, but if you really walked in and thought, they were missing it in the crowd of people. It was one of those tree fell in the woods and nobody heard.
How do you avoid that? What is your sort of diagnostics on how to get around that problem? Most people don't have the knowledge.
You have to think about that, and you have to engage the right people.
Right, and you can't.
And what's a simple trick?
Well, I think, we talked to this a lot about our clients. It's not just having the media there.
Yeah.
The media don't just want to talk to each other. They want to have interesting people that
Yeah.
they can write about. So I think we are really good at curating the room and figuring out who's connected to this, who would really be interesting, who has an interest, who has a big social media following. And so it's not just checking names off a list. We really sit down and
So
think about
that's kind of one of your
what's right.
secret sauces in terms of how things have changed.
Well, yes. I mean, I would say that's always been part of it.
Yeah.
I think what I'm finding now, though, because the ROI piece is so important, and the people that we're often working with have less experience in this than we do, and they may often just be saying, okay, how many journalists showed up, and looking at, the few days out, do you have this, and then of course we know sometimes some people confirm last minute, but the other part of it is, as Allyn said, you've got to make the room interesting.
Right.
Particularly, the press, they like being with one another, but they do like to meet other people who can help them, tell them a story or teach them something. It's been wonderful working with Martha Stewart for so many years, because with all of her different businesses, the launch parties are always wonderful. We recently launched a new line of paints with Michael's Craft Stores, and it was a painting party, which David David Stark did a fabulous paint party to launch Martha's new paints that she's doing for Michael's Craft Store. And it was wonderful. It was beautiful. It showcased all the product. And then we had press and bloggers. Everybody got an apron. Everybody got a painting kit. Everybody learned a different technique. And then Martha went around and helped them with the technique.
Wow.
When we launched her wine company, we had, which is done with drinks.com, we had each of the winemakers and the wine companies set up where everybody could go around and taste the wines that evening. And then there were special foods that would complement the wines which Martha had selected. So I think in that case where you do have a brand that can be so enhanced by that experiential launch, I mean, that's wonderful, to be able to sort of put all those pieces together. And they had very different audiences. You had crafters and bloggers, and then you had food and wine people, restaurant people. You have different people across the
But it's
the
still
landscape.
the experience. I mean, it's still people participating.
Very important.
People no longer just viewing. They're no longer guests, they're participants in many cases, it sounds like.
But you still need the people to help with that experience. And even if you can't do an event, you could bring somebody to a meeting, you could take them to a store if it's a retail concept or if it's a tasting. Over the years, we've worked with both Italy as well as Lavazza Coffee. And we've done lots of really interesting things. They actually have a lab at their offices where we can do entertaining, and they brought people over from Italy who, explain why it is so special and how it's prepared. So I think the engagement and interaction, and again with social media, we're doing a lot of events now for influencers. For STK, for instance, they have a fantastic rooftop on Little West 12th Street. And in the middle of winter, we did a partnership with a beautiful outerwear company called Moose Knuckles. And our team created a sort of wonderful winter warm fireplace type of dinner for about 25 social media influencers. We went out and put shearling on, or faux shearling on the chairs and had beautiful flowers to make it feel lively. And, everybody came and shared. We had a great meal at SDK, interesting wines, interesting things from their menu that everybody was able to share. And I think to go back to your original question, David, that's where it's different. We're not sitting here lining up a lot of, editors here to come and do something that may come out in 3 months. I mean, this is out before midnight, and it's really important how we get that
Sounds
engagement.
like you get unique partnerships are part of the formula as well.
Big part.
Like the idea of putting these two sort of things that you'd never think go together, but then they go together perfectly.
1 + 1 can equal 6. We've done it across travel. We've done it across food. We've done it with
Yeah.
wines.
We'll find things that are going in pop culture that might make sense to our clients. For example, last summer, Willis Tower, which many of us know is the Sears Tower, and there's a very famous scene in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off where they
Right.
take the day off and they go to the top. Well, last year was the 30th anniversary of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so we reached out to Paramount Pictures and asked them if they wanted to do a partnership with Willis Tower, which they said yes, and it was great. We had all of the gift shop at Willis Tower stocked with Ferris Bueller things. We did an event with one of the stars from the movie. We had a whole summer-long thing. We made the Sausage King, remember that joke?
Yeah.
We had a truck out front with that, so we really tied it
I
all
remember
in.
a lot of press on that
Yeah,
too.
and it drove a lot of press, but that was something where, Ferris Bueller, Paramount's not our client, but we reached out because, from our point of view, it also helped us generate press
Right.
and influencers and all of that stuff. So we're doing a lot of that.
How much of your business is influencers versus press now? Is it or
Well,
one and the same?
You ask a very important question at this very time, and it's something that we are spending a lot of time to make that balance almost 50-50 because we feel it's critical. We've seen just in 6 months things really, really change. We've had clients who have not been interested in any sort of social are suddenly coming to us saying we need social now. We've had some clients convert where they say let's out of print, let's just do social. We've had some who want to enhance what they're already doing. We've had some who might seem to be obvious ones who've been so successful in print, they now realize and actually we've brought it to them in some cases where we've said, you really need to be at these events. This is going to enhance your brand. Give us a chance. And I think from a business perspective for us, you are in certain instances able to go in at a relatively low cost plan for your clients, and then they see it and then they realize this is amazing. An area that's been exciting for us is we're getting more, we've always done some work on real estate, and we're certainly doing things in the luxury real estate, the rental market. Now we're getting into some of the commercial real estate, which is very exciting, where you've got brokers who are looking to, they need to rent space, they need to sell things, and real estate is one of those industries that actually hasn't, it's been very insular. So we're looking at some social programs with some of the key big development companies in this city about some really interesting programs going forward. So, you see all these signs and indications of how it's all coming around. I saw somebody the other day with a flip phone, which was interesting. They said, I can still talk on the phone, but I can't receive your texts. But for the most part, I think everybody in retail, it's critical, and
Where are we in social media, though, in terms of, there's been comments that Twitter is not as important. Is Instagram more important than Facebook? I mean, what are you guys seeing? I know it's a whole mix, but what's leading the charge right now?
I would say Instagram.
Absolutely.
Instagram is absolutely.
Instagram is very important.
Without a doubt.
But I think there's still a place for Twitter.
Yeah.
I think that I'd like to see a little bit more of it, maybe because I came out of book publishing and I do read a lot, and I think there are some really, really good articles. Obviously, you can't do much with that on Instagram. You can do a little bit of that on Facebook, but I think Twitter does have its place in certain industries. I know our Alyssa Surrett, who is our director of digital media here at Magrino, feels strongly about images and spends a lot of time on that, and it works.
BizBash is a visual media. We're killing it on that.
But I still look at Twitter for news.
Okay, so 25 years in business. What are the next 25 years going to be like? What do you see? Crystal ball it.
We're excited about them. We think that our business could become even more important. We think that there is relevancy still to what we do. I think there are many businesses that have really sort of faded away, whereas PR and the ability for somebody to be able to effectively communicate about what a brand is doing and to get through the clutter and to get through the competition will be more important than ever. And I think we'll all be challenged in ways to really, really be best at that. It's been interesting doing this party. We got a taste of what our clients feel like, where we know how important it is for this particular event to come off as a success. We have to work hard in getting the right people there, people that have been supportive of our business, whether they be clients or the media or friends, partners, employees, former employees. And I think it's that constant drive and know-how and how to get through the clutter. How do you get through everything? How do you reach people?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still about being great communicators. So it's shifted somewhat, and it's not just the print outlets and forever, but as we were mentioning, the digital, that'll be a huge part of the next 25 years and how we communicate, how people consume information. So I think that's something we've certainly evolved towards and will continue to do so. And as Susan said, we see nothing but opportunity because our skills, I think, will always be in demand in terms of helping our clients go out there and tell their story. At the end of the day, we are storytellers, and that's what we tell.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also believe personally that people kind of get bored of me saying this, that event organizers are really collaboration artists. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is not necessarily the accoutrements of the event, but the idea of collaborating all of the elements. From the people to the decor are the cues to allow people to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And you don't judge an event by how many people attend, but how many conversations are being curated and understanding the social physics of an event. And I think that PR is now part of that big mix.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we all go to events, and I'll go to things with my husband that might be for an alumni association. You go to weddings, you go to personal events and wine tastings and all kinds of things, even how people entertain in their own homes at times. And, we've all become pretty expert. We've all seen a lot. And it's wonderful when you see something that is really, really effective. We all know that these things have high costs or can have high costs associated with them. And seeing things that have been done effectively is always very, very nice to see that when it comes together. The one other point I would make about what we see in the future that's exciting, watching people grow and learn. I think that's very exciting now with the digital pieces. I work pretty closely with our team here. And I think it's great because I learn from them, they learn from me, and you have a coming together now, I think, that's different. And when we all came up, you really had to earn your place, learn your place. And now we both need each other at this time in business and careers where, you could have a 20 or 30 year age gap, and it's very interesting to see how those different generations are becoming very, very collaborative and learning a lot about it. So I think that's...
We have to be collaboration artists inside our companies in order to
definitely.
entertain the generations.
The internal, and you can feel the vibe from a company. You can tell if things are good or they're not good there. You can tell the way you interact with companies. And I think that's something that we spend a lot of time on, our internal culture as well.
Well, I'm hearing from the big companies that they're placing a lot of emphasis on internal events, and internal event organizing is becoming one of the holy grails of the big companies.
Yes, it is.
So
Culture.
And
culture.
It's important, and we're roughly 50 people, but we still need to have events here that allow the staff to communicate with one another, interaction between different levels, not only of seniority but and expertise, but also different disciplines. We have spirits, we have travel, we have home, we've got events, we've got wines, and they can all help each other. So it's great when we have these kinds of events, and that principle is the same.
Right.
It's the mixer where everybody has to get to know each other.
Literally, you're mixing. So thank you guys for doing this. How, if a major brand wants to get in touch with you or an individual, how do they do that? MagrinoPR.com, and all of the information is on our website, and you can email us directly from that, and we'd love to hear from you.
And we also have capabilities decks on there that you can download about our traditional and our digital capabilities.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the Gather Geeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter @GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of Gather Geeks. Until then, gather on. Gather Geeks is brought to you by Master Planner Online. Choose your event date with confidence. Avoid costly scheduling conflicts with Master Planner. With this continuously updated online calendar of fundraisers, important openings, and major events, you'll know precisely what's happening and where in New York and Los Angeles. Subscribe today at masterplanneronline.com.